Hey guys, Joe here, and it's 7:30 in the morning. I'm on the way to work, and I figured, hey, why not talk about a situation that happened last night and apply that to a advice vlog or an advice video. Now, yesterday a couple came in, not going to name names or anything like that, but we had sent them out on Thursday in one of our vehicles because they wanted to get a better rate than we were currently getting them through the bank, so we let them take the vehicle while we worked on it. Well, based on what they said, we got them a great rate with low payments, everything they wanted, no problem. They came back. Unfortunately, they didn't tell the truth. Now, here's the problem. Banks are usually using an automated system. That's why you can go on Capital One, American Express, Target, whatever, all these websites and do an instant credit application. They factor in lots of different things when they give an approval. So, based on the information we had, we got a good callback. That's when the bank gives you your answer. And when the customer showed up to provide their paperwork, they didn't tell the truth. They lied about their income. Their income was off by about 35%. Now, a bank, after the approval, wants proof. So obviously they need pay stubs or bank statements or something of that effect. Her pay stubs didn't add up to her stated monthly income. When you do that, you don't get your approval. The bank just says no. They don't have to approve it. That's just their approval pending. So, we asked her, and she kept saying that she made the money, but she couldn't prove it. Unfortunately, that's like not making the money. So, we put her significant other on it, but unfortunately, credit was lacking. When credit is lacking, that causes a situation where the banks call back at a much higher interest rate, which is what happened. Which means because of this situation, her payment jumped by almost 45%. Okay? So I had to break the news to them and talk them through everything, and we kept working, and we actually got them back in the same neighborhood of where they wanted to be. But that brings me to the point of this video. Yes, there's a stigmata about car dealerships. Yes, there's a stigmata about salespeople. But I'm going to have to flip this all around and point one of these digits right back at you guys, because there is also a stigmata about customers. Now, there's a phrase in the industry, and it's buyers are liars. And unfortunately, we exist in a society where customers think the dealership is out to screw them, and the dealership thinks the customer's out to screw them. So it creates this circle of violence that shouldn't be there, or circle of mistrust that shouldn't be there, is more accurate. And I'd really, really, really like to take a minute and dispel that for you. Because in the olden days of car sales, quite frankly, we were jerks. Quite frankly, we knew you didn't have any other options. But in today's market, with the internet, with thousands of books on shelves, with all the advice that experts give you, and I'd really, really love to talk to some of these experts and see what kind of cars they drive. But with everything that's going on, everything has been set up to basically still paint the dealership as an enemy and teach you how to be an enemy combatant, which is one of the stupidest things that you can do. Because your salesperson, which typically is getting younger and younger, because the sales force for car dealers is getting younger and younger because of the internet and because of the way people are handled. They want younger people that they think customers will be able to better relate to. But because of that, customers tend to come in with this almost jaded view on how they're supposed to negotiate. So the books tell you, don't buy at the first place you go to, no matter what the deal looks like. Don't be afraid to just say no. Don't be afraid to walk away. Don't tell them about your trade. Don't tell them how much money you have down. Don't tell them anything until you've made a deal. Well, guess what, guys? I'm not a mind reader, and the only way that you can get an accurate trade figure, buy figure, interest rates, anything, is to be completely forthcoming with the person you're working with. Now, here are some things you need to know. If you have a trade-in, do not walk into any dealership in this entire country and expect to get Blue Book for your car. You're not going to get it unless they're running their promotion, which is Blue Book plus whatever. Reason being, number one, Blue Book is not a recognized price guide for banks. Okay? Blue Book is a private party recommended pricing guide. The guide that you need to look at if you want a more stable estimate of your vehicle's worth is NADA, National Automotive Dealer Association Price Guide. This is the guide that the auctions use. This is the guide that the banks use to determine how much money they're willing to lend on some vehicles. Look at those numbers. Now, when you're looking at those numbers, keep in mind that dealers buy wholesale. That means if you look at the different conditions that are listed, there's usually excellent, fair, average, rough. Typically, at an auction environment, a dealer can buy a vehicle at rough or $1,000 to $1,500 below rough. So don't be offended, but why would I pay you more than I can go buy the exact same car for? Doesn't make any sense. Also, don't expect to get maximum trade for your vehicle when you're offering me nothing for my car. Because car dealerships are for profit. We exist to make money, just like any big business. So, when you walk in and you want me to sell you a vehicle for $300 less than I own it for, don't expect me to give you anywhere near what your vehicle's worth, because we can't afford it. You've taken everything off the table. The better you negotiate, the less I can do for you. Keep that in mind. Number two, withholding your trade until the end of the negotiation process is going to cost you money. And it dovetails back into the first part. If you bring us down to absolutely nothing, to where the dealership is making virtually no money off of you, just enough to pay the electric bill or whatever, you're not going to get anything for your trade. Simple fact. Don't, sit there and yell at me, but that's a simple fact. If you withhold your information that you have a trade until you've negotiated every single penny out of your purchase, you're not going to get squat for your trade. And in a lot of cases, withholding the trade can cost you the deal. Number three, not buying from the first place you go to. Some people say that, some people agree with it, some people don't. I personally don't. Here's why. 75%, or at least that's the last statistic that was released by our marketing people and the internet in general, 75% of buyers will look on the internet before they go out to physically drive and compare vehicles. So, by doing that, you have already seen what the average price is for the vehicle that you are interested in. Knowing that, that should no longer be the subject of your decision. You should already know what you want to pay for your vehicle. Now, the question is, can that dealer meet your expectations? If you go to the dealership and he has the car you want and he's willing to meet your price, why would you walk away and compare still? Did you not already do your looking? I can understand if you have not compared any vehicles, if you've not looked at the internet, if you not know what you're going to buy. But if you go into a dealership specifically to buy a Ford Fusion, for example, you know how they drive, you know that's the kind of vehicle you're going to buy, and you got the price you wanted, what is there to think about? Third, Financing. Financing is processed through the dealership. We handle your paperwork. What we do not do is we do not control the banks. We have some flexibility with the banks based on record. So the more contracts that we issue per bank, the slightly more lenient the banks become. That doesn't mean that just because you keep saying you want a $300 payment on a $75,000 vehicle means it's going to happen. Financing is a very complicated business. It's a very complicated equation. And for the most part, your salesperson doesn't know how to calculate it. This is done on purpose, because if salespeople start quoting things and they don't have the proper training or the proper knowledge or even the faintest idea what's happening, they can instill a false sense of either hope or dread in a customer. We don't like to do that. The current model for car dealerships is when you pick your vehicle and you've figured out the price you want, the finance manager has the obligation to you to find you the best rate. As long as we're making money, we don't care. So we'll find you the best rate possible. Number two, present you with a couple of options. We want to make it so that you have as much control over it as possible. And that means when the time comes and you're sitting in front of the finance manager, they'll usually have 2 or 3 banks that have given us a call back, and they'll show you what your options are. Well, if you go with this bank, which you said you wanted to go with, you can get this rate, but I found you a better rate at this bank. Would you rather go with this bank? So, don't ask your salesperson for interest. Don't ask your salesperson for monthly payments, because he's not going to be able to accurately tell you. It's not to offend you. They're purposely not trained to do this, because they could ruin your ability to buy a car. And this is mostly about helping you get your vehicle. Car salesperson is kind of a misnomer now. They are dealership representatives and customer service agents at this point, because again, with the internet, you've done most of the work. You are prepared, especially if you're the kind of guy who's watching a YouTube video about how to buy a car. So, where was I? Oh yeah. Don't ask your guy about interest rates. Don't ask your guy about payments, because he's basically not going to know. Number 4, when it comes to payments, if you want a rough idea on what your payment is going to be, do it this way. You can do it in your head. The rough number is, for every $10,000 that you borrow, you're going to pay back about $200. Now, that's not including interest or anything like that, but that'll at least get you in the right ballpark of where you want to be. So, applying that simple math, if you go to buy a $50,000 vehicle, assume in your head it's going to be $1,000 a month. Realistically, on a $50,000 vehicle, you're going to get a longer term from the bank, and they'll probably give you better rates and things like that. So it will probably be a lot less than $1,000 a month. But on a $20,000 to $25,000 car, don't be surprised if your payment is in the $400 range, unless you have a 900 Beacon score, and we can get you set up through a credit union that will give you 0.9% for 100,000 months. Otherwise, $200 for every $10,000 you borrow. Simple as that. Thirdly, just kidding. I have no idea what number am I. Am I on 5, 6? Who knows? Lastly, I want to say this. With the current crop of salespeople or representatives, especially the younger guys, they don't know the tricks that guys like me that have been in the business forever will know according to consumers. We're not going to try to trick you to make more money. We're not going to try to lie to you to make more money. Now, I may represent my vehicle more adamantly than my competitor, but that's our job. We're supposed to say, hey, why don't you buy my Ziflamalapalapal before you buy the Wakamadapapapapa, because the Ziflamalapalapal has much better interior room, or things like that. But we can't quote things that aren't true. can say things that aren't true, but we can't quote them. So hopefully you will walk in with the same attitude that you will expect from your salesperson. Don't go in angry. Don't go in with the stone face, I'm not answering a single question this guy asks because he's probably going to rip me off. Just don't. If you're going to have that kind of attitude, don't even go and buy a car. Take a bus. Be angry on the bus so people will, steer clear of you or put your picture on the internet. But the best way that I can advise you, the buyer, to have the best possible experience is, 1, be prepared for a long visit. If you're there to buy a car, you're going to be there for hours. No way around it. You're going to be there for hours. Number 2, if you want the less pressured way of buying and the least amount of heartache, go during the week and well before closing. If you show up to a business, especially a car dealership, 10 minutes before they close and go, I want to test drive that car, you're going to get a pissed off salesperson. No way around it. They've been there all day. We work 12-hour shifts. So I understand that you didn't get off work until 5 o'clock, but waiting until 10 minutes before closing to go and try to test drive a vehicle that you have no intention to buy, that's just going to piss off everybody. Because the owner wants to leave or the manager wants to leave. The salesperson that's been there for 12 hours wants to leave. And if they're not making any money, nobody's going to want to do anything. Just think about it at your job. At your job, if you were about to leave to go on vacation or take a day off and somebody came in at the last minute and took 3 hours of your time and didn't buy anything, how would you feel? Because yes, I've heard all the jokes. Lawyers are the only thing worse than car salespeople. Why do they bury car salesmen 12 feet down? Because down deep, they're not so bad. I've heard all the jokes. But the simple matter is, it's just like anybody else. You're gonna get what you put in. So be a good person, be polite, be the person you normally are. If you're an a-hole, so be it. But I hold in my heart the hope that most of you are civilized, reasonable, free-thinking individuals. So stop being lemmings. Stop being lemmings. Stop reading all these stupid books from people that don't regularly buy or sell automobiles, trying to tell you how to buy them. And I'm going to call some people out here. Car and Driver, Road and Track. Every time you produce one of those articles, don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be this, don't be that. Withhold all your information. All you're doing is hurting the industry. Refute me. Refute me. You can't. Because all you're doing is trying to boost your readership by telling people the best way to get over on a car dealer. And as a car salesperson for 17 years, I can honestly say that on only a handful of times have I ever truly taken advantage of a customer. And I'm not going to lie, I have. But it's because they followed those exact rules that were printed in books, or they thought they knew what they were doing. I love those kind of customers when I'm in the mood, because they're the guys that are going to pay me the most. They're going to take the highest interest rate. They're going to pay the most money for the oldest car I got because they think they're getting a deal. So knock it off. Be polite. Be a person. That's the end of that rant. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you want me to expand even more on any of what I said, leave that below. Feel free to subscribe if you just like watching my random videos. And technically they're not totally random. They're usually about cars or video games. But this is what I like to do. I like to see that people like watching them, and the criticism is usually few and far between, and oh my God, are they hilarious when I get them. So yeah, that's about it. I will talk to you guys later. See ya.